Welcome to Made for Mondays, the source for digging a little deeper into the Believers Church Sunday messages and finding ways to apply them to our daily lives. Together, let's take a deeper look and find a way to bring Mondays back to life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the pod. My name is Heather, and who are you fellas?
Hey there, Heather. It is me, Jamie.
And Samuel's here today as well.
Nice.
We got name tags, so I'm officially Samuel
Okay.
around church now.
Right,
Yeah.
but we're not wearing them today.
No,
No.
but I had to. I've been excited about it.
You have been?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people come up to me and be like, "Oh, I didn't know your name was Samuel."
Stop pulling your mic closer to you. Leave it alone.
Okay.
You are plenty loud, I promise.
Fair enough. I'm getting used to the new stewed.
I know.
what we call
Guys, this is our first.
Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
The stewed?
The dude?
I don't think we
That's
call
not
it
what.
that.
Oh, that's what Jeremy told me to call it.
No, he didn't. I for sure know Jeremy did not tell you to call it that.
The stewed.
Yeah. I mean,
Change the nameplate.
But
out
we
front.
are in this studio, and today is the first time that we're doing video recording
Yes.
for the podcast.
first time we're doing a video recording for the podcast that we're releasing.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have done a couple dry runs.
Did you guys
Yeah.
pick out your outfits accordingly?
I forgot all about it.
I did wear a nicer shirt than normal.
Okay.
I didn't just
Okay.
go t-shirt.
Yeah, I just motorcycle t-shirt. That's what
But
I wear that 90%
it
of
is
the time.
what we are.
Yeah.
If Joey was on here, he would have had his outfit picked out last week.
He would have had
Really?
a vest on.
Yes,
hair-
for
A
sure.
Haircut.
He would
hair
have been
done.
like, "This is what I'm wearing on
Really?
Monday to
Yes.
record the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my hair cut on like Thursday, so it has a couple of grow out days."
Yeah.
We also have beside over Jamie's head, they can't see it, but we have a TV screen that has all of our video cameras on it, and I have trouble not just staring up at it.
Am I still really dark?
No, you look great.
No, you look great.
I thought I had a tan earlier. It was kind of
No.
good.
No, you look
But
good.
You didn't.
Nice and pale.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah. So you guys, we just came off of spring break week, and
Yes.
Jamie, it was a particularly big week for you. Do you want to tell us?
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
At the Stewart
Which
side of
you rarely
things.
have like a lot going on. So this is
So-
very exciting.
This is so true.
You must be exhausted.
I am exhausted. Yes. I've had too much going on. And I'll start with the less exciting news.
Okay.
So I have a mother-in-law suite on my house
Yes.
that was vacated. I had someone living there for the last 2 years?
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heather's mom.
It was my mom.
Kicked her out. Get out of here, Rita.
I did not kick her out.
They
She
were
left.
done with her.
Yeah, I was very sad about her departure, but in her absence, we're trying to convert this thing into like an Airbnb. Is what
Right.
we're
Oh,
trying.
fun.
So we're painting the whole place, bought bed, having to assemble all the furniture, clean everything, move everything.
Yeah.
It's been a lot.
Yeah.
So I've got that going on. That's enough for me.
Do you have a date that you're trying to have this completed by?
I
Like, are
w-
you feeling pressured to get it done by a certain time?
No, I
Okay.
mean, not particularly. I would love to have it ready sometime in May.
All right.
Is this like a couple's getaway retreat?
Yeah,
Just me and my wife can come
absolutely.
for a weekend. That'd be awesome.
Stay across the street from the schools.
A mile and a half away
Yeah.
from where we actually live.
You don't even need to tell anyone that.
I
It
love
could be
it.
a real getaway.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Dogs are welcome, so you can bring your dog
Oh,
even if you
man.
want to.
Yeah.
That would be a blast in the backyard.
It really would be. So I've got that going on, and then Derek and Sarah Beth decided to have a baby in the middle of all this.
Oh.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
So-
plan it out, guys.
Not super well thought out.
Right.
Either Rita didn't think it out well, or Derek and Sarah Beth didn't think it out
Right.
well because
Either way, they collided.
they collided. So Esther Jane was born on Wednesday. So we've been running to their house, and I've been assembling furniture. So we went over there the first day, and I'm not very good with babies. I held her a couple times, but I'm not really a baby person. Like, she's adorable. She's beautiful,
Yeah.
but I don't know what to
But
do
you
with
can
them.
just see that from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like after you look at it, you're like, now
Okay,
what?
now what?
What do we
Yeah.
do?
Right.
I have furniture to build.
So that's what I did. I went, they got a new bed. And so I put the bed together for them. And then the next day I put the bed together at my house.
But Bonnie's
for the
put
apartment.
everything on hold.
Bonnie's
this
life
baby.
has been
Yeah.
put on hold.
Yes. You're
Yeah.
like, I'm
Completely
gonna.
altered.
Yeah, Bonnie went there yesterday. She's going there today. She's
Does she know she has to go to work too?
She is at work right
Okay.
now, but
Okay.
she forgot to bring most everything with her because she's
Oh,
thinking about the baby.
gosh.
So
And she brings a lot
she does
with her. She
Yeah.
has a lot of accoutrement.
Well,
that goes.
very nice. Yeah, she's got her tea in her teacup and all the stuff and
And water because
well, they don't have water
they
there.
don't have water at work.
Do you feel like you're not being taken care of as well now? Now that this baby's
Oh, that's
there?
a good question.
No,
Okay.
I'm a fairly
You're still
independent
getting your
guy.
vitamins?
Yeah, I actually I haven't been taking. I'm saving us so much money.
Whoa.
Oh, wait a second.
Since-
Have you altered the vitamin intake?
Since the Lenten fast, I don't have enough food in me to ever take. I'm not taking that many vitamins at night,
Gotcha.
Interesting.
and I'm not eating during the day, so I'm
I
not taking
see.
any vitamins. And my health is maintaining. I had a physical.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know. I had a physical in the middle of all this. Everything's great.
Yeah.
He's like, you're actually better. You've been telling Bonnie this for years.
Okay, but still with the lack of vitamins, you are still doing the smoothies, I assume?
I am still doing smoothies.
Yeah.
That's my lunch.
Yeah. So you've decided to stick with the fasting?
Not all of it, but yes.
Okay.
So generally speaking, I discovered during the Lenten fast that I just eat too much.
Okay.
Correct.
Don't we all?
I think so.
I think
Yes,
so.
1000%.
So I cut back on portions when I eat at home. So now I'm not doing just vegetarian, which I was during the fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I won't, like, if there's a work lunch function,
Yes.
I'll participate.
Okay.
But generally speaking, I'm not having lunch. I'm just drinking my smoothie and then
Okay.
I'm
Well, that's
having supper.
Jeremy was doing that, and we've been doing a little bit more of that, like just like the 16, 18-hour fast, right?
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah.
And it works.
I'm down 13 pounds.
But the problem is, so like we went away this weekend, and I had lunch more than I've had lunch in probably, a few weeks. But it's so fast how your body changes, because then you wake up the next day, you're like, I need lunch.
you're
I need to eat
starving.
immediately.
Yes.
And you're like, no, I just ate a bunch, but I can't figure out why I need more
Yep.
food.
Yep. So true.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that was a full week for you, Jamie. Stewart.
Yes. Oh, and I should mention a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the middle of all this, Bonnie and I did manage to work in a date night,
Okay.
which was great. And we went to the Virginia Cheese Company, I think
Okay.
it's called, or Virginia Cheese. I think it's Virginia Cheese Company.
Oh, is that down on Grant?
Off
Norfolk?
of Brambleton.
Brambleton, yeah.
Yep, very close to where my daughter lives over there. She gave us, like, not Christmas, a year ago Christmas.
Oh gosh, and you're just now using it?
Yeah, because they're a very small business, and the thing that we wanted, they haven't been doing for a very long time. So we were like,
Gotcha.
we're just going to hold out. And then I'm like, maybe they're going to go out of business. We should just go over there and get something because
What do they specialize?
cheese.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Interesting.
They do sandwiches.
good name.
They do sandwiches and a bunch of other stuff on baguettes and whatnot. But they have, on occasion, cheese fondue.
Oh.
And so we went for a fondue meal, and it was lovely. It really
Very
was a lot of
nice.
fun.
I don't know if I've ever had a great cheese fondue.
Oh, man.
Really?
It's so good.
Yeah. Do they like mix the wine in with it? Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
They had
maybe.
two different ones. We chose traditional, which is more like the French. But then they had another one with truffle something or other.
Oh,
It sounded really good,
wow.
but we're traditionalists.
And what were you
So-
dipping in this cheese fondue?
So it comes with French bread and little potatoes. And then we got cornichons, which are like
Yeah,
the
that's what I
little
was gonna say.
little French pickles. That's what I was going to say. And apples.
Cornichon.
Yeah, the cornichon
Cornichon. With conton.
with content. Yeah. So yeah, super fun.
Good.
Had a good
awesome.
time. I highly recommend the place. Go give them some support.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sam, what did you do for
Are we-
spring break?
Oh, spring break?
Well, just last week, yeah.
Worked a little bit, and then what did we do? The whole family was off from school, so we didn't do really much. Jamie did a bunch of spring cleaning. I left on Monday and came into work, and when I got home for lunch, Jamie had rearranged the entire house.
Nice.
Okay.
Which I'm a big furniture rearranger. I love it.
So's Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love it. I'm not able to do it in my house really because of how it's set up, but
Yeah,
if I could,
that's true.
I would be rearranging my house all the time.
Yeah,
Could you
so we
just
came
turn
in-
them around?
Not
Yeah,
really.
everything faces.
Faces the wall.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
So I did. I walked in, the living room was like completely different, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, I like this." Like
Yeah.
that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
So Jamie did a bunch of that, and she was spring cleaning and stuff. But we ended up going to the Outer Banks for Friday and Saturday with some friends.
Nice.
We did putt, and I had a really bad front nine putting.
Oh, man.
And I always make it a competition. I bet the kids some, if you beat dad or if you come within this many strokes, I'll give you this, blah, blah, blah.
Did you crush it on the back?
I was getting a little worried at the turn, but you know what? I just needed to focus.
At the windmill?
Yeah,
That's when
switched out the rubber putter, got a new one, and I tore up the back. It
Nice.
was really good. So I beat them all.
So you didn't have to pay out any awards?
No, I didn't.
Nope.
The friend
Don't
that
get your hand off
Oh yeah,
that.
sorry. I feel like when I look over there, I need to. The friend that was there, he'll remain
Nope.
nameless, but he ended up giving me a gimme putt on the last hole, and ironically enough, I beat him by one stroke.
Look at that.
Oh boy.
And I was goofing around, and I hit it and missed the putt, but he'd already given it to me, so I beat him. And it was fun. The weather was perfect.
Yeah.
The water was freezing, but the kids still jumped in because they're absolutely
I
nuts.
saw pictures of them in the water, and I was like, they had to be blue.
I
when
don't
they came
remember
out.
as a kid, but everybody's like, "Oh yeah, as a kid, you probably would." I don't remember like caring about. Like, I don't remember jumping in there. I would never jump into cold water.
Yeah.
But they do it like in segments. So they just like got their feet wet, then they came back, and then their shorts were wet,
Yeah.
and then you look out and they're just like completely jumping in the water.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be really cold.
It was
right now.
freezing.
Well, it
Yeah.
had to be really cold.
So I told Addie I'd get her a sweatshirt if she did the polar plunge, and she immediately jumped in and did it. So yeah, we had a blast. That's
good.
Beautiful weather. This was weird. I told several people this on Sunday. We drove home on Saturday we left at like 3:00, and it was one of the greatest driving experiences of my life. I wasn't driving a motorcycle, but I put all the windows down. The whole family fell asleep. Just had some music playing, set the cruise. It was great. And I normally I'm always rushing to get somewhere.
Yeah.
We just took our times home, and it was awesome.
fun.
So yeah, we had a great time.
Very nice.
I spent all of my time driving over spring break.
You really did.
Yeah. I drove a lot.
About 4,000 miles roughly.
Yeah.
4,500 maybe.
Yeah. So I left on early Monday morning with my mom, with me, in Nate's car. And then Trey, my youngest son, was driving his granddad's truck, which is a very nice truck for what it is, but the shocks are not great. And it's very bouncy.
It's a long way to go in a bouncy truck.
Oh my gosh. We would hit some of these spots and Trey was following us, so I could just see
Like over bridges and whatnot. Yeah.
at one point. So we drove out to Minnesota. And at one point, Trey says, like when we're first getting going, he was like, "Are we just gonna go straight through?" Which is about 26-ish hours.
No, pass.
And I was like, well, let's just play it by ear and see what happens. But I'm guessing we're going to want to stop and, we're going to end up at our destination at like 3 a.m. What's
Yeah.
the point of that? Like,
Right.
we can just stop somewhere. So he was like, okay. So we get going. By our first pit stop, he's asking my mom for ibuprofen. And he was like, yeah, I'm probably going to need a break. But it was really great. We had just honestly the best travel. We didn't hit any bad weather going or coming home. I don't think we ever we usually are stopped at some point for construction
Sure.
or an accident or whatever. Never once. I mean, there was definitely some construction zones, but we were able to just kind of cruise right through them. It
Does
was
he have cruise control on the truck?
yeah,
Oh, okay, that's good.
cruise control, but crank windows.
Okay,
That's awesome.
that's an okay trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. So yeah, we did that and got to spend some time with friends and but everything did seem really quick because we dropped my mom off in Wisconsin. That's where all of her siblings are. So she got to stay with them for the week, and then I took Trey up the rest of the way to Fergus Falls, Minnesota. And he's going to be working at a camp out there this summer. So he's just kind of doing whatever until that point. And it's so fun. Like Trey is just so fun. It's so fun to watch him. And I knew this is what he was supposed to do, like for this season. But seeing him back there, like there's this restaurant downtown. It's a small little town. It's called the Viking. And everyone goes there for breakfast. And weird, right? In Minnesota.
I wonder why they named it
I know. So it's been around forever and ever. Like as a kid, I remember going to the Viking. And Trey and I walk in on Thursday morning to get breakfast, and the place erupts because he's walked in the door.
Oh, funny.
And we're sitting down at this little table getting ready to order, and one of the old waitresses who's been there since I was in high school, she comes over and she's like, "Where have you been? What have you been doing?" Just grilling him. Like, I'm not even there.
Yeah.
She's like totally ignoring me, just talking to Trey. So he's, having a conversation. She's like, "Peggy's going to be so excited that you're back." Like all this stuff. So that was just great. I mean, it was so fun.
He is larger than life.
He is larger than life.
Yeah.
And it was like all of Fergus knew that Trey Carl arrived that week. It was just so fun. So yeah, like leaving him there, I'm just like, I can't wait to see what God does in him and through him over the summer. But yeah, then got to go back down and meet at my cousin's house and be with all of my mom's siblings, who I've seen a couple of them like in the last couple of years, just kind of in random like short time frames, but all of them were all together. I don't even know that they all get together at the same time very often. And just hear their stories, and it was such a sweet night. And then we got up the next morning, Saturday, and we left at 5 and pulled into the house at 11:30.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a whirlwind week, but it was.
Did you let
so
Rita
great.
drive at all?
No.
Yeah, good call.
No.
You would have got back
Honestly.
way faster.
Yes.
That's probably true.
Oh, I would have loved to see Nate's car at that point.
Right.
No.
Well, that's the downside.
Why is this cone underneath my
Much
car?
quicker, but with duct tape all over it.
This cone says Minnesota Highway Patrol.
So funny. All right. Well,
That's
before we did spring break, we didn't have a podcast last week because we were kind of
Everyone was
kind of in and out and all that stuff. So I want to talk about just Easter at Believers and how it went. How did Easter at Believers go?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a really good day. I don't want to start with like a downer.
Nice.
I mean, it was a really good day. It was about the same as the year before, which is kind of interesting. I mean, number wise.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Very similar. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was an exceptionally good day. A little more like as far as the numbers of people that came, we had 311, I think, in Believers Kids, which was, a high number in the last 3 years, probably.
Yeah.
And the week before was 309, and they had to turn a few kids away. On Easter, they didn't have to turn anyone away, which is just such a big deal.
Great, yeah.
And so to anyone who's at Believers who volunteers, I just want to say you guys killed it. You did such a good job, and we're so very grateful. I mean, you couldn't do what we do. And Palm Sunday was an example of what happens when everyone doesn't put their hand to the plow, right?
Yeah.
So that was just fantastic.
Well, and you say downer, but we've seen steady growth week in and week out. So I think that's why you would expect Easter might have been a little bit.
I kind of thought it would, but yeah, it was still really good.
I mean, timing things. There was just never know.
Yeah, spring break is always a funny thing, you know, and some of it's before. Some of the schools are before. Some of the schools are after. So yeah, that plays with the number a little bit. But our Easter attendance was more than 300 more than our regular average attendance. So I mean, that's still pretty great. Mm-hmm. Quite a few first-time guests, and it was just a really good Sunday. I haven't heard about people coming to faith, although 2 came to faith at the Good Friday service, which was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
But that doesn't mean someone didn't, because I didn't do a really big push on our next steps that day either. So we had if you recall, we had people come forward. So. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still getting those numbers just because we had staff out on spring break and everything last week. So I'm sure we'll have more of that.
Yeah, it was a really, really good day. And I thought it was a great kickoff to the new series too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Easter was awesome. We did a staff circle up on Thursday, and we were just talking about some God moments. And for me, the Good Friday service was just so good.
It was so good.
I can't think of a better word to describe it. And I know that there were a lot of kids in the room. And I had conversations in the Commons with some parents that were nervous because they were like, can kids go in there? Is it going to be okay? So I was trying to assure them, like, yes, we understand what we're getting into. And at first you're like, oh, maybe we should do childcare. But I'm so glad we didn't, because having the kids in the room and being able, like,
it actually was really good.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of Christmas Eve 3 years ago when I read the biblical Christmas story.
Yes.
And you could hear a pin drop in the room.
Yes.
Same thing happened with reading John 18 and 19. I could not believe how quiet the room was
so
as I read
quiet.
through that. It was incredible.
Yeah, people
was
were definitely
incredible.
leaning in. I stood in one of the tunnels while you read, leading out to the Commons, and just to see people leaning into how you read that and just that story. My 10-year-old son came up to me afterwards, and it was the first time. It was like the first time he heard it.
Yeah.
I mean, he has heard it before, but it was like his first time for him. And then to hear the response, I shared this. So our vocal team has been going down and helping BK worship lead every Sunday. So after we're on stage, usually 2 or 3 of us will run through the Commons and get into the BK large groups, and we'll lead worship. And it was so cool on Good Friday to be leading worship and to see kids engaged. I guess you don't realize how it's going, but we're starting to see some fruit from that planning, and I'm excited what that's going out. Like, I'll stand at the front door on Sundays, and kids that I don't even think, they're hopping around during worship. They don't even, I don't think they're paying attention at all. And they'll come up and give me a high five, or give Megan a high five, or one of the vocalists. And it's just so cool to see that connection happening. So I'm excited for more of that. But that stood out to me big time for Easter.
That's so good. Well, Jamie, you mentioned it. We started a new series Easter Sunday called What If Jesus Was Serious?
Yeah.
And so for today, I really want our conversation to kind of cover both weeks.
Yeah.
So Easter Sunday, you told us that Christians are being told we're losing the culture war.
Yeah.
So what are we being told we're fighting for? Like, what is the culture war? What is it that we're fighting for? And why should we be so up in arms about the whole thing?
Yeah. So just to start with that whole thing, obviously that's just fear-based. And, we've talked about this a lot when we've talked through politics and whatever. People who are leading or want to be leading are trying to stoke fears, because fear motivates people, and it's working. People are afraid, and they're afraid that they're losing their culture. So they're losing the culture war. They don't even know exactly what that means. I don't think. They think that Christianity is, it's been in the news. It's been talked about a lot. We talk about it a lot. The rise of the nuns, the sweeping social changes that have happened that move away from traditional Christian values. All of that is being used to stoke this idea that there is a culture war going on. I mean, look at the state of Florida with Disney and the governor, and there's this constant battle, and those who want to lead us tell us that we're losing and if you send us more money and if you vote more for us, then we'll win. But you'll never win, because they can't win, because they have to keep you afraid.
Right.
And people are falling for it.
They don't actually even want you to win.
They don't even want you to win.
Right.
They're not. They'll never declare victory, because that would work against their agenda.
Yeah.
I think it's cultural and it's generational as well, because I find myself doing it, but like people maybe before me, like Jamie, your generation, sometimes I hear, well, this is how we did it, and this was the right way, right? And I've seen myself doing that to my kids.
Yeah.
So it becomes this thing of like, we're supposed to be like the previous generation, and if you see something change, well, you're doing it wrong, or our way's better. And I see that fighting like constantly between generations as well, like within the culture.
Yeah, and I mean, let me just be as transparent as I can too. Is are we becoming less Christian, if you will, as a society? And the answer to that is 100%.
Yes.
Yes, we are. And we're moving towards rapidly, if we're not already there, towards being a post-Christian nation, just like all of Europe is, and Canada is. We are definitely trending in that direction. There's no question about it. The solution is not to fight for the values that are slipping away and berate people who do not hold those values. It's like, so there's a little bit of truth in what we're being told, in that we are becoming less Christian. That is true.
Yeah. But how we're dealing with that.
It's the tactics of how we're dealing with it that is wrong. And I feel like I beat on this drum constantly, but I also feel like no one's listening. So I feel like I feel like we are a very small voice in a sea of people are getting 12 hours a day being told that they're losing a culture war, and then they come to Believers, and for 20 minutes someone tells them that's not true.
Yeah.
Or your tactics are not honoring Jesus. And we're being drowned out by the constant drone of the voices on the other side of that.
Yeah, because I think the easy thing to go against what you're saying, someone would be like, well, we can just do whatever the culture does then. And that's not what you're saying. You're saying the tactic of how we are showing Jesus to our culture. Yeah. Right?
Right. I mean, I mentioned this yesterday, but, like we will berate and demean people, and we will elect people who will berate and demean people because we say we love Jesus. Yeah. And you think about how nonsensical that really is. So,
even on Easter Sunday, you kind of went from the culture war to saying that they, the nuns or the formers, have looked at those of us who say we follow Jesus and how we live and conduct ourselves in the public square.
Yep.
And they have concluded that we don't even believe what we say we do.
Correct.
They aren't rejecting us because we have taken Jesus too seriously, perhaps. They have rejected us because we haven't taken Jesus seriously enough. So do you think that's because many Christians are like bandwagon fans? Do you think it's because they've become complacent or apathetic? Like, where does that come from, where we're not taking Jesus seriously enough?
That's a great question. I don't 100% know the answer to that. I think part of the answer is we cherry pick a lot of verses that we like, and we ignore the ones that we don't like. And so, I mentioned on Easter, we love to worship Jesus who died for our sins and rose again. We love to raise our hands and declare victory over addiction and, breaking the bonds and, all those. We love that. But love your enemy, we don't really like that. I don't know the last song I've sung about loving my enemy.
Sam, you should write one.
Yeah, you should write one of those.
I'm trying to think of all the lyrics.
Yeah.
I need my confidence monitor, I can tell you.
So I think that's part of it, right? We're very selective about the things that we get very preachy about, and there's not a whole lot of humility. There's not a whole lot of self-reflection that goes on in the church, I don't think. And I think that's a real problem. So we spend a lot of time measuring everyone else up to standards that we think we kind of sort of know, but we don't even really know what those standards are because we haven't spent much time studying Scripture ourselves. So we're trying to hold our culture to a standard that we don't even know what that standard is supposed to be.
So that then, like, to answer that question, I mean, it is almost a notion of apathetic feeling that people have toward their relationship with Jesus. Like we're seeing that there's not this pursuit of understanding who he is and who he's called us to be.
I don't know.
To say it another way, there's not much depth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to like be demeaning of where folks are at.
Right.
I think many people, they have ideas about what Christianity is, but they haven't really, it's more of an add-on to their daily life. There is not a sense that Jesus is actually God who requires something of me.
Lordship.
You know, so we don't view Jesus as demanding something from us, but if he's who he claims to be, and that's what Easter message was all about. If he is who he claims to be, then we better start rearranging more of our lives to conform to what he says.
Yeah.
I think people are having this is me speaking personally. Sometimes it's very difficult to find the balance of either being on one side where you're beating somebody over the head with a Bible,
Correct.
or being the opposite where people might not even realize you're a Christian.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's
you get too
that's
much
true.
into the culture where you're like, oh no, I'm going to go hang out with this. I can do that. I can do this. I love Jesus, but I'm just trying to I want a non-Christian to be able to be cool and like hang out with me. Right.
Yeah.
Trying to find that balance is extremely difficult in this society, in this culture.
It is.
And unfortunately I don't have the greatest of answers for that, but it is very difficult.
Yeah,
Well-
and that was sort of this week's message.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, you set that up in addressing why it's important for us to even follow what Jesus says. So before taking us to the Sermon on the Mount, you really made a point to address why his teachings even matter.
Right.
So why are his teachings different from any other philosopher, ancient religious teacher, or leader? And why should we pay more attention to Jesus than, say, Confucius or Buddha, Muhammad, or even Joseph Smith, Stalin, or Nietzsche?
Yeah.
Like, why does it matter what Jesus says versus what all these other fellas decided to tell us about?
And the answer to that is super short: because of the resurrection.
Yeah.
You know, that's the event that sets Jesus apart from absolutely everybody. Andy Stanley talks about this a lot and says, our faith is built on the event of the resurrection. It's not built on the Bible. It's not built on the teachings of Jesus. It's not built on the miracles. You can argue whether those are, quackery or what.
Right.
All of those things. You want to debate that stuff? Let's, we can debate it. But it all comes down to the resurrection. And if Jesus came back from death, if he conquered death, then he validated everything he claimed about himself.
Right.
And so that's why I spent so much time just talking about the claims that Jesus himself made, because anyone can make those claims,
Yeah.
but no one can verify the claims. Like, the only way you could verify those claims is to do what Jesus did.
Yep.
And he predicted his death many times over.
Yeah.
And he predicted that 3 days later he would rise again, and then he did it.
Yep.
And so then if you want to go down the debate of the resurrection, we can do that. We have done that in the past in other series, but it's hard to overcome world history because it points to a resurrection. Something very dramatic took place.
Yeah.
Around Jesus, and the Roman Empire, who opposed Christ and killed Jesus, declared Christianity the religion of the empire 300 years later.
Yeah.
That's pretty astonishing.
Amazing. So with that as the foundation, let's jump into this past Sunday's message.
Yeah.
You made, excuse me, you made the suggestion that culture is a product.
Yeah.
Who we are, how we function, shapes our ideologies. So you talked about some of the cultural norms you and Bon had to learn during your time in France. What is the tension that exists between God's kingdom culture and our kingdom of residence culture?
Yeah, the tension is exactly what Sam was saying. How do we maintain the culture, the values of the kingdom of heaven, while residing in a culture that does not view those. Not only do they not view those values as valid, but increasingly those values are considered hostile or even hateful. So how do you maintain, those values in an environment where they're not celebrated?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you gave a list yesterday of all the different things, right? The funny things, the Bible Mans, the Bible Bibleopoly, all that stuff.
Bizarro world.
Bizarro world, as I like to refer to it.
But
it's one of my favorite rants is parallel Christian culture.
But honestly, like even you saying that, you could feel the tension in the room because,
especially when I talk about prayer in school.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like I think even when like I was building out your message and we were putting the funny things in, I thought, oh man, this will probably get some chuckles. But it was kind of like quiet. Bible Man got a couple laughs.
Yeah.
But like the
Bible
Man
came to Believers.
The
Did
Holy
you talk
Land,
about that?
I did not. But Bible Man has come to Believers.
Like the Holy Land experience.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there are people in that room, even myself, that were like, well, I can see some of the good in it. Like you could learn about what Jesus did, right? And like, what if a Christian, like some guy built Noah's Ark? Like that would be good to go to. And like, you know what I'm saying? So while it is Bizarro, I think there is like a real tension that us Christians are like, no, isn't that what it's supposed to be? But again, I agreed with everything you were saying. Like I agree with your message on it. I just think like there's more tension there than we give even like we can just say, yeah, there's tension, but there was a lot.
There was a lot of tension.
Like we send our kids to private schools. We send our kids to Christian schools.
Yeah.
We send them to Christian camps.
So
like where's the balance?
Right. And it's a great question. And okay, so part of the answer is there's no real definitive answer because like the school thing.
Yeah.
We put our kids in public school. We did it by conviction. That's what we chose to do. But that doesn't mean that's what, you have you have one of your kids in a private school. That's a good decision. Heather had one in a private school, one in a public school. Mm-hmm. Like every parent has to make that decision for the reasons that they make them, including how my child is wired and what they're going through.
And how they learn and all that stuff. Yep.
So, there's no definitive right or wrong on that. Like I'm not a everyone, you're copping out if you take your kids and put them in a Christian school or homeschool or whatever. I would never go down that path. I don't think that's correct. So like some of the stuff that I poked fun at, I mean, is there a place for some of it? Probably. Yeah. I suppose there is. I listen to Christian music almost exclusively. No, that's not really true. More Christian music than non-Christian music, I guess. But so, like everyone's got to draw their lines. They got to figure out, what that's going to look like for them. But the whole idea though is this idea of like if I'm creating this parallel Bizarro world, Christian universe as a way to distance myself from the culture in which I live, that is what is wrong about that. Mm. So it's not that those things in and of themselves are wrong, but if you've created this entire parallel universe
as a
bubble, that you never have to mingle with people who do not think like you or believe like you, that is the opposite of what Jesus taught us.
Yeah.
So you want to go to you want to go watch Jesus get crucified and play a round of Christian putt-putt at the Holy Land experience? Go for it.
I already said I like putt-putt.
Okay. Go for it. Have a great time.
But never mind.
But like if you go from there and then you go home and then you homeschool and then you play Bibleopoly and you've managed to go through your entire year with zero interaction with someone who is not a follower of Jesus, you are not taking Jesus seriously when he tells us that we are to be salt and light.
Right. So how does the desire to Jesusify all the cultural things equate to salt either losing its flavor or taking over the dish, because that's what you were talking about yesterday.
Right.
Is
great
that
example.
there's an effect that happens
Yeah.
when we choose to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the effect of the parallel universe is we set ourselves up as a spectacle to be mocked. I mean, I'm a Christian and I mock it.
Yeah, you laugh at it.
Right.
Right. So, what are those who do not believe in Jesus thinking?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're thinking. And so, that's what happens when you completely withdraw and you have zero influence. Okay, what happens? What happens is what we have. You have a culture that is moving away from Christianity because Christians have refused to be salt and light. Because for the last 100 years, our Christian leaders have told us that you should leave the world and don't be in the world, and you should separate yourself from the world. And so the result is we've created this parallel universe, and we've ceased to have any influence on anything in our culture, including our schools. And, again, like, it's a byproduct of what we've chosen to do.
Yeah.
You pull all the Christians out of public schools, and you have public schools that don't have any Christian influence in them. And now we're battling to get back on school boards and all that. Maybe we should have been doing that for the last 100 years. Mm-hmm. So, I think what we've done is we are experiencing the result in our culture of what happens when Christians completely withdraw from culture. You have a culture that is no longer being influenced by Christianity.
Well, and you just talked about being mocked for this subculture universe we've created. And certainly, we just came out of learning about the Easter story, and Jesus was mocked, but we're not being mocked because we're looking like Jesus.
Right. That's the point of the series.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, we're not being like the quote from yesterday, Adamson. That's I think that was
such a good quote.
Such a good quote. Tyler sent that to me, thinking that I would use it for Easter, but it was perfect for this week. If people hate you because of Jesus, that's to be expected. But if they hate Jesus because of you, that's a problem.
Yep.
Right.
We're on
that
that
is
scale.
that is 100% where we are today.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can reasonably argue that.
No. So you wrapped up the message with our series memory verse, Matthew 7:24. Can you read that for us?
I can.
And tell us what we can expect over the next few weeks, please?
Yeah. So anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on solid rock. And then Jesus goes on. It's not a memory verse, but it's
and the wind
it's the context. Through the rain, though the rain comes in torrents and the floodwaters rise and the winds beat against that house, it won't collapse because it is built on bedrock. And then Jesus gives a warning, and it's pretty stern. He says, but anyone who hears my teaching and doesn't obey it is foolish, like a person who builds a house on sand. When the rains and floods come and the winds beat against that house, it will collapse with a mighty crash. And so, that's what happens when people don't take Jesus seriously. Mm-hmm. If you take him seriously, you'll build your life around the teachings of Jesus. And if you don't, you'll hear them and you'll continue to do life the way that you want to do life. And when storms come, you won't have the solid foundation of a life built on Christ. So over the next coming weeks, we're going to continue to delve into, what exactly does this Christian culture look like? This week I'm working on the message that includes the Lord's Prayer, so that'll be one of the things that we're looking at. It's going to be. I'm super excited for the entirety of the series.
I am too.
Yeah.
I am too. Well, that's all we've got time for. We hope that you guys will share all of this good stuff on the socials, and we will see you this coming Sunday at 9 and 10:45 on campus or 1 o'clock online. Thanks for being here, friends. Do all you can to be loved this week.